In today's video, I'm gonna teach you how to teach your kid how to throw. So if you're new here, I'm Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher, former baseball academy owner. I'm also the author of 5 different baseball books, including my new one called The Art of the Mound Visit, which is an essential resource for youth baseball coaches. Check that out in the description below. So the way this video will be structured, I'm gonna teach you how to throw with your kid. And here's the spoiler, there's not gonna be a lot of drills. The drills are part of the problem. I'm gonna teach you the footwork. I'm gonna give you a general overview of good throwing mechanics. And I'm gonna teach you what to do with your kid in the backyard or on the local baseball field. By far the biggest thing is footwork, understanding open versus closed position, and having a general understanding of how to get your kid to self-organize. Self-organize means that their body will figure out the proper mechanics on its own. We do this in all walks of life. We figure out how to walk. We figure out how to jump. You can't really teach a kid how to jump, right? Oh, knees go down, knees come up. That's not really how it works. But they figured out when they have this task of like, I have to jump from here to there. I have to jump onto this 6-inch ledge, right? Whatever it is. Kids are really smart and their bodies figure out what to do. And that's gonna be a big part of how I teach your kid how to throw today. So feel free to zoom through the timestamps below where you can jump around. And this is gonna be a really good resource that you can follow back up on in the future. All right, so let's start with some basic throwing mechanics just so you have an understanding as a parent. I'm gonna keep this really high level. And when you're teaching a kid how to throw, you don't wanna make it complicated. You don't wanna make it annoying by giving them too much instruction. You just need to keep it simple. So here's the basics that you need to know as a parent. So number one, when you're playing catch or you're rolling them ground balls or throwing them fly balls, they need to get from open chest position, which I am open this way. You can see my chest fight a logo on the shirt. You'd be able to read the shirt logo. That is open. I need to get to closed. Closed to my target means my chest is facing 90 degrees, basically perpendicular to my throwing target. So if I was actually throwing a baseball, this is my front foot landing. So back foot, front foot. I have landed in a closed throwing position. If I do this, I am landing in an open throwing position. This means I have rotated open. I am not completely closed. I am a little bit open when I throw. If you land in an open position when you throw, whether it's just throwing like darts, they get the ball and they just back, that will lead to very poor throwing mechanics. Or if they do an okay job but don't get completely closed, they're a little bit open, that will also lead to poor throwing mechanics. So the biggest thing we want to reinforce with young players when they're just learning how to throw, and this applies to 4-year-olds the same as 8 or 9-year-olds, or just beginners as adults, is we need to teach you how to get from the open position to the closed position. So footwork is the biggest thing for that. So if our goal on every throw is that when the front foot lands, our chest is closed to our target, our feet have to take us there. So when you field a ground ball, you scoop it up in front. I'm not gonna go into the weeds on fielding mechanics, but you scoop it out in front, you funnel it up to your belly button. That's the term funnel. So you funnel it up to your belly button. And then for me as a right thrower, I'm gonna move my right foot ankle towards my target, then my left foot, and then I'm gonna shuffle right to left and then left to target. So that's the basics, all right? So let's do that again. So I field it, I funnel it to my center, right foot, ankle towards my target, left foot, and then I'm gonna add a shuffle, right to left, left to target. When we get a fly ball, when we play catch, we're just throwing it back and forth, we're not fielding ground balls. Same general rules apply, it'll just look a little bit different. I'm gonna catch the ball, and then I'm just gonna try to turn my feet. I can reset completely, it doesn't really matter. But once I get the ball, I need to turn my feet and shuffle and throw. Same thing with a fly ball, keeping it super high level. I catch that fly ball with one hand, or I catch it with 2 hands. I'm gonna bring it to my chest, I'm gonna turn my feet, shuffle, and I'm gonna throw. The shuffle position is gonna get me automatically into good closed chest throwing position. Now I can always screw this up later, but it's gonna give me a great foundation for getting my body in sync. Now parents, you'll probably rightly point out, well, my kid pushes the ball or their arm looks really weird. You are not gonna be able to coach them out of that. It's also gonna become extremely annoying for them when you're like, get your elbow up, get your elbow to 90 degrees, get your elbow to 87 degrees. It's annoying. They can't control their body that well at young ages, really below like 9 or 10. And so it's gonna make things worse. As we talked about earlier, as far as self-organizing, if their feet are moving, their arm will start to do the right thing naturally because the body knows how it wants to produce power and throw a ball. However, when our feet are just planted in the mud and I'm throwing like this, that's when we can have real ugly elbows and real weird joint angles, and we can look really bad because our feet aren't contributing to the overall power production that our body will give us. So this is why, again, the number one thing that I'll get into is teaching them to get closed and then shuffle their feet. So I field a ground ball, I play catch, mom or dad throws it to me, and now I turn sideways, I shuffle, boom, and I make my throw. And because my feet were moving, my arm is gonna sort of hitch up to the train, my upper body's gonna rotate, my glove arm's gonna get into it, my hips are gonna get into it, and they're gonna force my arm to start to get in a better position. And the more you allow them just to throw these things and move their feet, the more their body is gonna start to figure it out as they try to throw the ball farther and harder and hit you in the chest. It's gonna teach their body naturally to do what it knows how to do. Now let's talk about the glove arm real quick, because this is another thing that can look wonky. Infielders in baseball, in Major League Baseball, their glove arm will essentially swim out kind of low, and then it will circle to this side of their body and then finish down here. Baseball pitcher, a little bit higher, and then it typically tucks into their armpit. That's how you'll see me throwing for the most part, because I was an outfielder and a pitcher. Outfielders go higher, and it'll either fall down by the side here, or it will tuck. Outfielders throw a lot like pitchers do. As far as those mechanics go with what the glove arm does, just don't tell your kid to point their glove arm, because they're gonna do this, and then it's not gonna be in sync with their body. The glove arm, as we're shuffling, should separate and make this semicircle with my lower half. I shuffle, and then my glove arm will make the semicircle and meet my body here. So at the end, it will look like they're pointing it, but in real life, we don't point at things by going, so it's not really pointing. Our glove is rotating with our upper body and meeting us in that sort of pointed position. But overall, don't really coach your kids about what to do with their glove arm. They're not gonna be able to figure it out with their body control at that age. It's just gonna be a complicating factor. It's not worth it. Just work on footwork and everything else, which I'm gonna walk you through right now. All right, step one, just play catch with your kid. Make it fun, throw the ball back and forth, short distance. Don't worry so much about the mechanics. Don't give them instruction. Just have fun, create a good atmosphere. Too often I watch parents play catch with their kids, and it's constant instruction from the very beginning. And guess what? That's not fun for them, and it's probably not fun for you because you're anxious, and that's why you're doing it. Let it be a fun thing. If they don't enjoy throwing a ball, if they don't enjoy playing baseball or softball, this is not gonna go anywhere anyway. So start off by just throwing it around. Maybe it's your first 5 or 10. Compliment them, be encouraging, have fun, and just throw, play catch, and that's it. Step 2, start to back up a little bit where it challenges how far they can throw. If they can't really hit you in the chest anymore, like 40 feet, 45 feet, that's the time to say, hey, and we're gonna treat me, Dan, as the kid right now, say, hey, Dan, if you turn sideways and you shuffle your feet, so start with your hands at your chest and shuffle your feet, you're gonna be able to throw it 5 or 10 or 15 feet farther, I guarantee it. Do you wanna try that? So then encourage them, say, okay, is this good? Yep, so just move your feet side to side, teach them how to shuffle. So shuffle, shuffle. And what you're gonna see right off the bat is they're gonna start either in that closed position that we started with, and B, their arms and their legs are gonna be in more of a synchronicity because they're shuffling. And the magic happens when they will have to figure out when their hands separate, which will happen on its own. Their feet will stride out a certain length on its own. So the big thing to do here is just turn them sideways. They start here, take 2 shuffles, and throw. Don't coach them on anything except their footwork. They are gonna try to throw it at your chest. They're gonna try to throw it past you. Just coach them on their footwork. Hey, great shuffle, 2 shuffles, 3 shuffles. You can count a different amount of shuffles, and you can challenge them. Hey, every time you hit me in the chest, you get a point. Make it fun, make it a game, and compliment the effort. The number one thing is just the footwork and the quality of their shuffles. All right, next progression is you really want to challenge them to throw it farther or harder. And you can do this 1 of 2 ways. Way number 1 is by long tossing. So continue to move farther back, where it's going to be really difficult for them to keep hitting you in the chest. It might only be 40 feet if there's a 4 or 5-year-old, right? That might be 60, 70 feet if it's a 7 or 8-year-old. But challenge them, because as we talked about, they will self-organize the or they have to do this task of hitting you in the chest at a distance that is uncomfortably far for them. So the farther away they get, the more they're gonna use their legs, they're gonna have more speed and momentum into their shuffles. They're gonna start to probably reach with their glove arm naturally. They're gonna start to have uphill shoulders naturally. All those are positive things. And so that task of mom or dad or grandfather, whoever, in the chest from a really far distance, their body will start to, again, self-organize. It'll start to say, okay, we want this different joint angle. We're gonna use our glove side more. Everything is gonna start to figure itself out if you challenge them on distance. So that's the number one thing I would be doing with my nephew if we were out trying to work on his throwing mechanics. I would challenge him to throw it farther after we got through our little warm-up period. Option 2 is make it a game where you're gonna have a target. So set up a target, back them away far enough where they still have to throw it, a little bit of distance, and allow them. I want you to punch a hole in this cardboard box that I've set up here for your target. I want you to this thing at this box and try to put as many holes in as you can. And because they're encouraged to throw it hard, their body's gonna find a way to throw the ball harder. So the next progression here is to mix in game skills. So that means basically there's ground balls or fly balls, and then the same task that we were talking about earlier, getting their footwork into a shuffle and getting them into that closed position, which the shuffle facilitates. So after you played catch for a while, maybe you long tossed, maybe you threw it at target, and you still are having fun, you want to do some more. So now you say, okay, let's do some ground balls or fly balls. So now you're gonna throw me fly balls, and you're gonna say, hey, when you catch that fly ball, I want you to bring it to your chest, turn your feet sideways as fast as you can, your hands are still together, and then shuffle, shuffle, and throw. That's it. And that is a wonderful game skill to teach, because if your kid's out there and they catch a fly ball in the field in a game and they're here and they remember, ooh, I go here and I shuffle, shuffle, throw, they're doing exactly what the major leaguers are doing basically. They're getting closed and they're giving themselves a great chance to make a strong throw from the outfield. It's a wonderful habit to teach. So throw them pop flies, one hand or two hand. I'm not gonna get into the weeds on that right now. Don't even worry about that. Into center, how fast can you get your feet shuffled? Make your throw. So pop fly to the center, shuffle, shuffle. And then with ground balls, it's gonna be the same thing. So you roll them a ground ball, they field it, they make that alligator chomp, they bring it to their belly button, and then it's how fast can you get your feet turned, shuffle, shuffle, and throw. And you can roll them right and you can roll them left. They can backhand it, same thing, bring it to center, shuffle, shuffle, and throw. Or you can roll into their forehand, and then footwork, shuffle, shuffle. So overall, if you get your kid comfortable shuffling, they're gonna naturally start to assemble very good throwing mechanics. Their body will self-organize at an age when you cannot possibly teach them all these nitpicky details about joint angles and where your arm should be, where your glove arm should be, all that sort of stuff. Now, if you're wondering about throwing drills, those are for older kids. I have lots of throwing drills in my membership area here on my YouTube channel. There are lots of drills that I did as a pitcher. So drills have value. They just don't have value for very young players who don't have the body control or really the need to do drills. The point of drills is to break down and sort of segregate one aspect of your body. So we might do a drill that helps a kid feel what their glove arm is doing and really sort of isolates the glove arm so that we can work on what the glove arm does. We have drills for the back side. We have drills for the joint angle of your elbow. Those things are too nitpicky and unnecessary for young players. Now, if you're skeptical of this whole thing and you're thinking, well, no, everyone says drills. I went to the Dominican Republic, I'll share a quick story, with an American baseball team. And when we played against the Dominican academies, you saw kids really, really tiny, all the way up through, 17, 18 kids who were gonna go off and play professional baseball. All of these kids threw extremely well. Now, there's a survivor bias aspect to that sample because a lot of kids really compete to try to be in these academies. However, these are academies where they don't have any dirt in the infield. They're using bats from 10 years ago. They don't have any paint left on them. These are kids that work really, really hard at the game. And what I noticed about their throwing routines are they didn't really do drills. All of the Dominican kids, as they warmed up on the other side, I was watching them, they're just moving their feet, fast feet, really athletic footwork. They're just moving their feet and throwing like athletes. And all of them had great arms and they could do all sorts of things that are really, in America, we don't teach kids to do until they're older. But in the Dominican Republic, they're like, be an athlete, move your feet. If your footwork is good, your throws are good. And that was part of what really clicked with me in thinking like, hey, this American way of doing drills when they're young really isn't the right way to do this. The human body is smart. We used to throw spears and rocks, and we figure out how to do that with pretty good effect because the body self-organizes when our footwork is in the right place. Now let's talk about gender. Should boys be doing something different than girls? Should girls be throwing softballs? Should boys be throwing baseballs? What's the difference? Everyone should be throwing baseballs when they're young. The softball is so big, it is a major issue teaching girls bad throwing mechanics when they're young because it's too big. It's like me trying to throw a cantaloupe. If you have a daughter, teach her how to throw the baseball. It will make a massive positive impact on their throwing for years to come, even if they transition to softball later or they stick with baseball. It makes no difference what sport they stay with. You're teaching general throwing skills, and the smaller ball that they can easily grip and fit in their hand and feel comfortable with teaches extremely good mechanics. Over the years, I've worked with a lot of girls on their overhand throwing mechanics, and when girls come to me with pretty good arms, I always ask them, like, did you throw a baseball or did you play Little League Baseball when you were a little bit younger? They're like, yeah. All the girls that have really good arms that I worked with, there was a consistent pattern, and that pattern was they played catch with a baseball when they were young. Because again, small hands, the smaller ball, it allows them to have the proper mechanics without having to contend with carrying this cantaloupe-sized softball around, which is so big, even the 11-inch ones for little girls. So if you have a daughter and you're teaching her how to throw, work with the baseball. It'll pay off, I promise you. All right, so I hope this video was helpful, and I hope this relieves some anxiety and stress for you sports parents, because everything I asked you to do in this video is actually pretty easy for you to execute on. Even if you never played baseball or softball in your life, you can help your kid shuffle and throw. It's really simple, and I promise you it'll work. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and check out my online courses, my books, my other resources that can really help you as a baseball or softball parent or as a youth baseball or softball coach. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you here in the next video.